there. You are listening to the Girl Talk podcast brought to you by the Stoner Group at UBS Financial. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
I'm Tricia.
And today we're talking about a subject that has been on my mind and has kind of been rocking my world for the last week or so. I'm reading this book by an author named Jen Wilkin, and the name of the book is None Like Him, 10 Ways God is Different from Us and Why That's a Good Thing. And, you know, you think you know, especially if you've been a believer for a long time, you think you know the character of God and kind of how but she's talked about self-sufficiency. And when I say the word self-sufficiency, I think we're like, oh, yeah, we all want to be self-sufficient. Yeah. We all want to do that.
Independent.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But in our spiritual life, she says we need to unmask self-sufficiency. She's talking about how Christ is all sufficient, but we try to take on that role sometimes. And here's what she says. What are the marks of self-sufficiency in the life of the believer? How can we know when we've stopped relying on God and others? And she gives 3 things. Prayerlessness. She says when our self-reliance causes us to cease approaching God with petition, praise, confession, or thanksgiving because we credit ourselves as the ultimate provider, we cease conversation with our true provider. And that like rocked my world. Like that one right there was enough. Yeah. And then she goes into forgetfulness and she says, like Israel in the Old Testament, we forget the past undeniable provision of God. And that is a form of self-sufficiency. Yeah. And then she says when we get angry, when we go through a trial, when difficulties force us to come face to face with our limits, we feel anger at our exposed need, and we are unable to count our trials as joy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like
that's
good.
hard.
I know.
I think that's almost the hardest on the list.
Do you?
Yeah, because when you're in a trial, and of course you're angry, you're upset, you're like, why is this happening to me? I don't understand. And Tricia and I were kind of talking about this yesterday. When you're in a season and you just can't get your mind past what you're dealing with. You're in a little tornado of whatever that is that you're dealing with, and you can't do other things.
You can't be proactive when you're in the middle of one of those sorts of seasons.
Good. Yeah,
you have to just, you're reactive and protecting yourself versus trying to move forward.
Yeah. So true. But it really unmasks that self-reliance in us that we're not relying on God fully. You know?
It's so interesting. I see these 3. I recognize each of them. And I think how it works is I start with prayerlessness. Then I move into forgetfulness. And then I get into a trial, and then I'm angry.
And then there's a 4th one that I didn't mention just yet, lack of conviction of personal sin.
Oh, jeez.
Like so,
I do. Serious.
I know
what
it was
is
like
this book.
it was beating the fool out of me, and I was like, "This is hard stuff." And I've been like talking about it with friends and thinking through it, and because I think one of the things that we think about, especially our spiritual. Now, I'm not talking about your kids or your spouse. We all want to be self-reliant in life. You know, we all want to. You want your kids sleeping in their own bed. Maybe mine will one day. You know, you want them to brush their teeth and do their own laundry, and clean up, shower, and clean up after themselves. But when it comes to spiritual life, you know, I don't even think I've ever even thought of that as a negative thing.
Right.
You know, until I read this, and I was like, oh my word. Yeah. Because I'll be honest with you, I struggle with prayer. Prayer is one of those things that I'm always talking to God, but when I think of when somebody says like, how is your prayer life? I'm like, it's very weak.
I read a quote that's all about that, and it ate my lunch too. It was from Corrie ten Boom, and she said, is prayer your steering wheel or your spare tire?
Oh, that's such a great example. What a good visual.
Yeah.
Because when it's like going back to that trial, when you're in the trial, I'm praying all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Every second, I'm like, please help me through this. I need your help. I can't do this by myself. What is going on? Just lead me through this. But when things are going good, it's easy to kind of forget. And you do, it's like what you said, though. It's like not that I don't pray regularly, but not as intently as when I'm in need.
Right.
When I'm being grateful and thankful and all that proactive stuff, it's probably not as much as when I really need it.
Well, do you want more? Because she goes on.
We can handle more.
No. She says those things, and then she says, that's in your relationship with God. And she said, when we deny our need for other believers, self-sufficiency reveals itself in the following ways. We avoid Christian community. I am so like that. Like, if I don't have my stuff together, I will not go to small group. Because I'm like, I don't want to be. Okay, concealment. Like, you hide things that you don't want people to know. Lack of accountability. Yeah. Lack of humility. And here's the other one, exhaustion. That one got to me.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
She was like, we refuse to ask others for help and we overextend ourselves.
Yeah.
And that was like a page and a half of like stuff I can't get off my mind.
Are you done with the book? Is this it?
No.
There's more.
No,
there's more to come.
And there's more. I've read past that, and I'm like highlighting things and dog-earing pages because
it's a lot. Just
so good. And it's really a book about, the character of God, but it is unmasking some things in me that I think God is really kind of working on me, because I know you shouldn't think this way, but like, you were talking, you only pray when you're in the middle of a trial. It's like I get in this mindset of, I can handle today. Right. Like, I got today, God. I'm good. Like you can go help somebody else today.
Right.
Come back on Wednesday.
That's right.
Please.
That's another thing that we think,
I got a
that
big meeting.
God can only, handle us one at a time.
Right.
Right.
It's like,
you don't want to ask too much.
Right.
And you don't want to ask for the little things. And it's not about asking.
Right.
This just is such a glaring example of how little I think about God's power. Like, I minimize His power that's what I'm talking about when I do that, because I think, oh well, He can only handle one at a time, or I only give Him the big requests. No, I'm learning now through this grief process that I've been going through. I am learning how big God is, so much bigger than I ever considered Him to be, so much more powerful than I ever thought about. The fact that He knows everything about you, all of us at the same time, every hair on our heads. And you kind of know that in your head, but it takes a while for it to travel into your heart. And it's taken a while for me to understand it. But having gone through this horrible period that I've gone through lately, I'm realizing how powerful God is and how weak I am and how much I need Him. It's been a huge lesson to me.
Yeah.
And although it's been awful, I can say that learning that about God is a good benefit of what happened. So how you can count it joy when you're in a hideous moment, it's because of things like that. I'm learning more about God than I ever knew. My faith was automatic before.
Yeah.
Now it is battle tested.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That's
what a great
good,
quote.
Tricia.
Well, it's just kind of what I've been fighting through.
And I think people are learning through you.
Yeah, they are.
So it's not just you benefiting from this tragedy, but you're learning and you're sharing.
Right.
And other people are learning through that.
I'm one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one.
Well, even what you just said is so powerful, because you're a believer. You're so faithful. And
not so much sometimes.
But to think that you have grown even more from where you were before, I'm like, wow, that's miraculous. You must be like way up there now.
No.
But to hear, the way you explain it, it's like you realize, okay, no, we all have room to grow. We all, and I think that growth is never ending.
Well, the trial has exposed how weak I am. Maybe I thought I was a little stronger than I was. It's exposed my weak areas, but that's where God comes in.
Yeah, and I think you put it so beautifully. You said, I don't think about God enough. And I think that might be at the root of all of this, is that we're thinking about us and what we need. And we think, oh, if I ask God, I'm going to diminish Him somehow. Like if I give Him this burden, it's going to take away, and that's not God. God is not a big human.
Right. With limited resources.
Like, and I love the verse that says that He doesn't grow weary, because you all know that I'm probably that friend for y'all. They come and you're like, oh gosh, she's going to talk about that again. No. And you roll your eyes, at Him, and God doesn't do that. He doesn't grow weary.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful for that, and for this kind of unmasking some self-reliance in my own life, and forgetfulness. My goodness gracious. That's why I journal. I mean, honestly, I haven't done it as much as I should lately, but that's why I journal, so I can go back and see the faithfulness of God, because I would have made a tremendous Israelite. I mean, like, I would have been so good, because I'm like, God, what do you do for us? Yesterday. Okay. But
do you ever write down prayer requests and then go back months later and you're like, That was answered. That was answered. That was
Very
answered.
powerful.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
a very powerful little exercise to do. It's super easy, but it's amazing to go look back and like, oh my gosh, this was all answered.
And it doesn't, there again, because of Pinterest and Facebook and everything else, you think that your prayer journal has to, honestly, there are some things in my prayer journal that I guess I could say I'm embarrassed because times I've been mad at God, or I didn't want to talk to God, or those kinds of things that
I understand that.
I don't know if I would want people to see. They don't look like everybody else's prayer journal with the bullets and the highlights and sometimes it's like this is a crappy day and I don't like it and this is the way I feel, but it's an outlet for me to be able to express those feelings and then to go back to them and see how God met me in those different points in my life, because I need to remember those things.
It's just our human nature to forget.
Yeah.
We will think about the next thing, and not the God thing. So starting every day with prayer, starting every day with reflecting on what God has given us this day, that can help. Now, I don't do it all the time. I don't know why I don't do it all the time, because I have a better day when I do.
Yeah.
But yet still I don't.
It's
But
easy
I
to
know
get
it's
busy
true.
and get your 2 feet on the floor and just get your day going, because some days I feel like I'm already behind the behind the 8 ball when the second I wake up. So I think sometimes it's easy to forget to have gratitude in the morning, to be thankful and to pray. And but it's like you said, when you do, it's a much better day. Because even if it's a bad day and you go through that process in the morning, and it could be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be like this long 30-minute, like what you're saying, Carol, with the journal. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Some people think you have to have this amazing quiet time and get in a little closet and do all these things. And not everybody has the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Or a closet you can get into.
Yeah.
It's very small.
But you could, in your car on the way to work, go and get groceries. There's a million ways you can do it. Just to take a few minutes to set that aside for you, I think is really helpful.
We can't do it.
Have you ever heard a sermon, sat in church, and thought, I wish fill in the blank could hear this?
Oh, yeah.
I think
Were you thinking about me?
No, I think we've all done this. And Jen Wilkins says in her book, we grow increasingly unable to acknowledge our personal need for forgiveness. When we hear a sermon or read a passage of Scripture, we hear it as a general admonition instead of a personal one. Man,
Yeah.
that is so hard. And then that personal sin takes over, and that's how the devil gets a foothold in our lives.
Yes.
That's where it all begins, is that lack of confession. And then she talks about accountability and being in Christian community. I need so much accountability that there aren't probably enough people. That's how much accountability I need. I need somebody to look me in the eye and say, you're not doing good, and I know it. And Tricia does it all the time.
I try to do that.
Yeah, she does. She was like, what was up with you today? And it's good, because I'm like, okay, I need to know that somebody knows, number one, and somebody was paying attention, and I have to answer those hard questions, and that is so good for me. I don't know that everybody's that way. I don't know how you guys are, but I have a couple of close friends who, from time to time, but they always know if I don't answer a text or if I won't make eye contact, there's something going on.
Yeah, because isolation is one of your and one of my escape modes as well. And in my grief share group just the other day, they were talking about isolation. When you're feeling grief, a tendency is to isolate, but guess what? That doesn't help. It makes your grief more intense. So when we take that step that we think we're helping ourselves, we're actually not helping ourselves. And I got to remember that too, because I have the same tendency. Because we like to be with people.
So what do they say you should do?
Be in community. Just exactly what we're talking about. Be in community. Have friends that you trust. It doesn't mean you have to share your business with everybody, but have a few friends that you can trust that love you, and they're not judging, but they can help point you in the right direction.
Right. And that is so important,
because
you can surround yourself with people who will tell you what you want to hear. You do not need people who tell you what you want to hear. You need people who will tell you what you need to hear, and that is truth. And sometimes that's hard, and that's hard both as the giver and the receiver. It's hard to hear that truth, and it's hard to give it sometimes, but it makes relationships stronger. I'm convinced of it. Man, This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Very good
Powerful.
stuff. And we appreciate you listening today. If you've got thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. girltalk@thelightfm.org is our email address. You're welcome to email us. Join the private Facebook group. We posted that awful face app thing of us all yesterday. Well, when was that? One day.
Someday.
Yeah, we posted that, and it was humbling.
Humbling.
It made me want to get some new skin cream.
That's right.
And go to the gym. So
I went and got new lipstick last night.
Exactly. So you go see that. You can find out when a new episode posts. But if you have an Apple device, you can subscribe to the podcast now on iTunes or on the podcast app there. And every time a new episode's available, it'll shoot it right to you. Please leave a comment. That's the way that people find out about us. Share it with a friend. However you consume this podcast, we would love for you to share it with a friend, and we would love to hear from you. We love that you're a part of this community, and we want to do things that make your life better and add value to your walk with God. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time as we join around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.